Confronting high credit card debt can feel scary, but the good news is, if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, financial relief options are now available. National Debt Relief is currently offering debt relief designed to reduce what you owe and put you on the fast track to becoming debt-free. If you qualify for debt relief, you may be able to pay back less than what you owe and save thousands of dollars. Just visit nationaldebtrelief.com. Imagine only paying one low monthly program payment you can afford and saving money as you become debt-free. National Debt Relief has already helped bring debt relief to over 550,000 U.S. consumers, earning thousands of five-star reviews and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. You're stronger than your credit card debt. Let today be the day you start turning things around. Take the first step and visit nationaldebtrelief.com to see what debt relief you may qualify for. That's nationaldebtrelief.com.
Hey guys, finding the perfect gift for the food lover in your life is easy. Thanks to Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships America's most iconic foods straight from world-famous restaurants right to your door. So if you want to treat someone to Joe's Stone Crab from Miami, Franklin Barbecue from Texas, or desserts from famous foodies like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart, Goldbelly has you covered. Just go to goldbelly.com and for a limited time, get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's promo code GIFT.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy, hoy, everybody, and welcome to Talk to the Audience, where this is always death. I am one of your hosts, Bob Mackey, currently pouring one out for a lost Hibbert, and who is here with me today, as always?
Ready to apply for the writer's room for Stewie Season 2, Henry Gilbert.
And yes, this is Talk to the Audience. It is our community podcast. It posts at the end of the month on Patreon, the beginning of the month on the free feed. And in this podcast, we talk about what's happening in the world of The Simpsons, what's happening with us, and then we spend the rest of the podcast going over your questions and comments that you left on our Patreon. And yes, it is a slow news month, which means we're going to be talking about other shows, but they're kind of on the same network or involve the same people, so it's only fair. And we have to release something, right?
Yes, yeah. I guess it's going to be this way going forward with Talk to the Audiences. The lull between seasons is going to be like half of the year now instead of a quarter of the year with these 15-episode orders per season.
Yeah, I feel like if the first episode is going to be a Treehouse of Horror, then it's more like between February and October, which is like 8 months.
Wow, yes, yeah. We're getting 4 months of broadcast Simpsons per year. I guess at some point in that lull, it sounds like there's still going to be a Disney Plus episode here and there, but otherwise, yes, we're just going to have a lot of like Simpsons silence throughout the year. Yeah. It's a different era.
But we're going to still do our jobs, damn it. And I guess this is related, the first news item, in that there's probably going to be an exclusive Disney Plus Simpsons episode. It is likely going to be a talented Mr. Ripley parody named Simpsly. That's the title of the episode. And that's all we know. But there's a collection, there's a handful of production season 37 episodes that have yet to air. They could be pushed to broadcast season 38. And one or possibly more could be a Disney Plus exclusive. We don't know yet, but we will report on it when we know.
It's a really interesting strategy by the Fox TV channel or network for this year and going forward that they just decided they wanted to have, like, instead of X number of episodes per season, they want to take 7 episodes from like each regular order of Bob's Burgers, Simpsons, Family Guy, and American Dad, and just spread it around to like more shows to put it with. I still believe it's to plan for the day when the ones Disney owns will never be on Fox Network anymore, to hopefully have something that they can keep airing without, if they ever were to lose Simpsons, Family Guy at all.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. I'm very tired of these very wimpy production orders lately, and we'll talk about it soon. But what we're covering on What a Cartoon next month, the seasons regularly have 26 episodes, and I'm just like, oh, the golden age. God, yes. They just had so many ideas, and if they didn't, they thought up some crazy crap to put on TV.
They got to film something, and like, yeah, here's the one time I'll mention, I'm limiting myself per episode here. I'm watching Next Generation, and I'm in season 3. I'm like 12 episodes in. I'm like, oh, this has to be the halfway point. It isn't yet. Season 3 is a longer season. It's like, I think 27 episodes of an hour-long program.
They put those bastards to work. Like, that was the golden age, late 80s, early 90s. They're trying to get to that syndication magic number, although TNG was already in syndication, but they wanted the rerun factory to always be operating.
Yes, yeah. Well, because they knew how This was back when they wanted to spend enough money to like get to the number of episodes to rerun instead of just like, let's just have 8 episodes of something every 2 years. That counts as a show. That's a TV show.
Sure. Yeah, we'll renew it. Everyone will have aged horribly between seasons, and then we'll cancel it like 3 in when there'll be like 20 episodes to watch.
Back then, they knew they had to get to like, well, sure, it's first run syndication, but if we want to get this to 100, we got to get at least 25 a season, and they get 2 months off, if that, between seasons to grow beards or cut hair or whatever.
Yeah, I really hate when these streaming shows get a begrudging final season that's like 4 episodes long. I was just experiencing that with the Greg Daniels show Upload. Every season seemed to get smaller and smaller, and then the last season is 4 episodes. I'm thinking, just why even bother? I'm happy they got to finish the story, but it just feels so passive aggressive. Like, yeah, have 4. Get out of here.
Yeah, I really think a lot of that is like the algorithm tells them that if this at least has a finite ending instead of left on a cliffhanger, this will get more views as a library show. Yeah.
People won't say, oh, don't bother watching it. It doesn't have an ending. So I can kind of see that. So yes, we're mad about short episode orders or small episode orders. In our next bit of news here, we are thinking that possibly a remake of the classic game, The Simpsons Hit and Run, could be coming in the future. So earlier in March, Matt Selman told People magazine, quote, "Because we know people love it, we know they want it, so that's good. If we know people want it, never say never." So that's what Matt Selman had to say, which could indicate something is happening. And 1 week earlier, gamers discovered that Radical Entertainment, the developer of this game, the veterans from that studio, have updated their website for their fresh new studio, New Radical Games. And this is a Vancouver-based studio, so I can go find them and knock on their door and say, hey, I have a podcast. What are you doing? Break all your NDAs. I need to know.
Just see if they left their window open on one of their dev kits. Like, that's not illegal. You're not trespassing.
No, I'm just using my eyes to look at things. And if illegal information happens to be on the other end, then, it's not my deal. It's their deal to deal with.
Yeah, if you go to the New Radical Games website, they make no secret of all of the things that they developed before as under a different name, but with a lot of the same leadership, at least based on the names that are on the website. But they especially have like a whole section on their site for Simpsons Hit and Run. Like, it's the cover of Simpsons Hit and Run, that iconic one of Homer running on it. And, this has been asked for long enough that I remember watching an E3 video of Simpsons writers promoting Tapped Out and being asked, but what about Hit and Run? Don't you want to bring back Hit and Run? And E3 is very dead.
Yes. I will say, if this does come out as a remake, adjust your expectations. It's still a licensed game. It's still very good. But watch out for Fireballs, the Great Video Game Podcast, put out an episode about this game. And you realize the limitations of this game and that there are really only 5 kinds of missions. But the love is there. And it's basically playable to the point where it needs to get out the door in terms of hitting the shelves. So maybe they'll work on gameplay elements. Maybe they'll fine-tune some stuff. That would be great to release an improved version out into the wild that maybe gives you a little more time on those really pain-in-the-ass time missions where that's where I stopped playing the game when I rented it from GameFly.
Yeah, I have to admit that it came out where us being slightly older gamers, like when it came out, I saw it as like, oh, that's pretty good for a licensed game, but it wasn't a be-all, end-all to me.
I like how you call it slightly older, and I'm thinking, I'm 21 years old.
Yes, I mean, it was the next generation of Simpsons fans that were playing that one the most. But I mean, yes, is it better than the aughts Simpsons games otherwise? Yeah, though the Simpsons game is a more fully featured, bigger budget idea of what if Liberty City was Springfield, but it's less fun, I'd say, or less funny than the Hit and Run
it's
game.
just like Electronic Arts Game Loaf. It's very flavorless. The writing is there, but the gameplay just feels uninspired. And maybe we'll cover that in the future because it is part of our timeline, and it does come out, I believe, alongside the movie or shortly afterwards.
I believe it's the November after the movie. Yes, it's November 2007. And so, yeah, that will be a multi-episode event, just like our Simpsons movie, which we're in 2005 right now. So it's not the thing we once thought of as like, well, we'll never talk about that, is relatively close in our work order.
We're getting there. And yes, we are really scraping the barrel for news here. There was a recent story about the actor Barry Keoghan. By the way, I had to look up how to say his name. I think I was saying Keegan for the longest time, but it's Keoghan.
Yes, I believe I've said it that way too. Keegan, until you see interviews with him, and he's a very good young actor. He should be getting all this attention that Timothy Chalamet's of the world are getting. He's really great in Saltburn, which is kind of a crummy movie, but he's great in it. At least as far as if you want to watch a movie that's not predictable, don't watch Saltburn, I would say.
I see. I think I've seen something he's been in. But in any case, this interview was about him being a quote-unquote big gamer. And frankly, folks, that don't impress me much because he was born in 1992. Guess what? He loves Pokemon. Crazy, right?
Yep, yeah. And
it's fine. But in this interview, he said that he was playing Simpsons Hit and Run on a PSP, and everyone went, "Excuse me, that was never officially released for the PSP," and that's true. Either he was playing another game or he has a hacked PSP. We don't know. We're waiting for a follow-up from Barry Keoghan. He may get canceled over this, and I hope he does. You should not lie to the press.
Yes, it's the same as saying you don't respect theater or ballet, is if you say you played Hit and Run on a PSP when only the Simpsons game was released for the PSP, as far as PSP Simpsons games go.
And I don't know if they ever planned on making a Hit and Run for. I guess the PSP wasn't out when Hit and Run hit the shelves. PSP's 2004, Hit and Run's 2003.
Yeah, and by that point, EA, I think, had gotten the rights to it. So yeah, I'm thinking, look, he's a young actor. How's he supposed to remember what was in his hands when playing something? Or it is just lots of people played hacked PSPs. It could also just be a nerd friend of his had a PS2 emulator on it and put Hit and Run on it. Could be that.
In any case, we pray for his downfall. It's over, Keoghan. Fake gamer, fake actor.
He won't be playing Droog again after this.
I assume he played Droog once. I'll have to check his IMDb.
Oh, Bob, you've forgotten all your favorite Eternals. He was Droog, the Eternal, right up there with Fasto.
Kinga? Sprites? Yes. Are these guys?
Kinga, okay. Sprite, and Athena. That's another one. Okay, phew.
I'm going to say keep chasing those Oscars, Chloe.
Yeah,
we'll talk about Oscars soon.
Oh, yes.
But I think you mentioned this up front, Henry, that a recent spinoff to Family Guy was announced, and it is called Stewie, starring, of course, Stewie Griffin. This will debut in 2027. Fox ordered 2 seasons up front. And the premise is Stewie will be at a new preschool with a turtle friend, and they go on sci-fi adventures. So it's more going back to the roots of Family Guy when Stewie was an evil genius with inventions and what have you. And it seems like its current order will wrap at the same time as the recent big orders of Simpsons, Family Guy, and American Dad. I believe that order will push The Simpsons to 40. So this all works out time-wise.
Yeah, basically, I wondered, the article that announced it that said it's a 2-season order to start with. One, that's just the safe thing to do for an animated series. If you're going to go in, you got to do it. But also, it times it so, should it be successful, it would be renewed at the same time as Family Guy and American Dad, probably in a package deal with Seth MacFarlane's Fuzzy Door Entertainment.
I did not find this information, but do you know what the episode orders are going to be like? Is it going to be 15 per season like the other renewals?
I believe it is a 15 order, yes. Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure. It's crazy that this is a spinoff where they also make it clear in the article this is not like old spinoffs. Stewie will stay on Family Guy. It's just that he's going to have the old silly adventures he used to have on the show with off-screen with some turtle guy in a wannabe Rick and Morty style, I'd say.
Well, around 2009, the president of TV said that Seth MacFarlane must have 3 shows at all times. And because the Orville's not coming back and Ted is going to be canceled, well, goddammit, give him Stewie.
It really is insane how much Seth MacFarlane is working these days. I had even more than ever, and not just with the Stewie thing. I recently got a dose of Seth MacFarlane because I've started watching Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner have a podcast where they promise to not only talk about Star Trek, it's about being an actor in general. But they had Seth MacFarlane on, and they kept going wait, you're working on this too? And this and this? And Jonathan Frakes mentioned he had directed an episode of The Orville and never got hired back. And Seth MacFarlane, basically it was because they joked, but the joke was Seth MacFarlane is too controlling to really let Jonathan Frakes direct the show he's hired to direct.
Well, it seems like The Orville's not coming back because Seth has got to keep busy with this thing now.
Well, now after hearing that interview, I now know that Seth MacFarlane, when he's on the set, Jonathan Frakes said when he was directing the episode, he's a masterful director. At least he's directed 8 million episodes of TV, Jonathan Frakes, in many movies. But he said he was trying to like set up shots and plan out shots before Seth MacFarlane got there. And everybody else on the set was like nervous, like, don't know if you're allowed to do that. And like Seth then told him like, well, yeah, I had to fire you or else I'd stop being your friend because we would have gotten in too many fights over you trying to direct things I want to direct.
Well, I'm glad they're on good terms, but he does sound like a real prima donna, that Seth MacFarlane. And you know what? This Stewie show may sound very cynical, and in some ways it is, because, like, why can't we have a new idea? No, here's Stewie, a character we met 27 years ago, and you're going to like him again, damn it. But hey, this is an animated show that will likely not be canceled, and we need more animation jobs. So that is my argument for, fine, Stewie is fine. Give people animation writing and directing and storyboard jobs, sure.
Yeah, if you want to keep the people employed on network animated shows, sadly, like a Seth MacFarlane show like that is incredibly stable and will keep people employed. I am going to assume this is a WGA show. I'm thinking he's still sticking with that. So if that's the case, it's probably a better job than writing for Adult Swim, at least, money and benefits wise.
Yeah, or just like getting some Netflix show that they won't promote. It ends in a season and you're sort of like just cast to the wind afterwards.
And they still are. I haven't heard much new about it lately, but last year they announced there's a Ted animated series too. So the Ted high school show is live action with a CGI Teddy in it, plus the animated series as well. So it's like, how many shows can this guy get on television? It's insane. He has to be a billionaire at this point, right?
I don't know. 1,000 millions is a lot of millions. And people that make entertainment don't become billionaires. People that make nothing become billionaires.
I know it's very rare. Like Steven Spielberg, to be a billionaire, had to basically like own a piece of a theme park. Like that's how he became a billionaire.
Yeah, like if you sell a website once in 1996, you're a billionaire. If you've worked on TV for the past 35 years, you're not a billionaire.
You could be worth $500 million like the
Sure.
South Park guys, but maybe that's the ceiling.
Yeah, I think the fact that we have so many billionaires who just don't do anything makes us all think, well, a billion's not that much, right?
Yeah, well, even now, I just read some other news story where it's like, oh, this guy could only offer $7 billion. Like, I think there's now a line between like, are you not even worth $10 billion? Well, then you're not really rich. Like, you're not an actual rich person's worth $100 billion,
Yeah, we're looking up Seth MacFarlane net worth, and I'm not finding anything, but perhaps he's now worth $400 million according to Yahoo, a recent report.
I'd bet on 400 to 500. Also, you know what? Take this into account. I believe he's never been married, so he doesn't have a divorce pulling him down like, say, Trey Parker does. Multiple divorces on Trey Parker's part.
So we're all rooting for Seth to make it to $1 billion. One guy who has actually made stuff should make it to the $1 billion mark.
And he does actually make things and hires people, and he does employ the same people forever as well. It's good to be a friend of Seth MacFarlane, it sounds
If you're Mike Henry, you're sitting pretty.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah. Man, just how much do you think he makes just from Mike Henry, from American Dad Residuals, just from being like that one guy, Jacobson or whatever, who's like the CIA employee?
I mean, when Mike Henry lost the Cleveland voice acting job, he was like, I don't care.
Yes, yeah. Honestly,
that's one less thing for me to do.
Those Cleveland reruns, like, yeah, Harry Shearer should have listened to Mike Henry of like, hey, I don't play Dr. Hibbert anymore, but Mike Henry lost all of those jobs, and he only makes the same money.
Mm-hmm. It's true. So up next, we have a slightly confusing news item. Allow me to explain. So the namesake for Dr. Hibbert, Steve Hibbert, passed away at age 68. If you've been following our podcast, you know what I'm talking about, but if not, let me explain here. So before Dr. Hibbert was turned into a Cosby parody, a Dr. Huxtable parody from The Cosby Show, Julius Hibbert was Julia Hibbert. And Julia Hibbert was named after Jay Cogan's groundling buddy, Julia Hibbert, who we know best as Julia Sweeney. So the SNL cast member, Pat herself. And if Julia Hibbert did not become the Cosby parody, it would have been, I assume, a black female doctor named Julia Hibbert, named after this semi-famous comedian. But now the namesake for Hibbert has passed away. And outside of this little footnote in Hibbert history, he's mostly known for playing the Gimp in Pulp Fiction.
Yes, yeah. It's the answer to trivia questions for movie nerds of like, why is Julia Sweeney, in a one-off scene in Pulp Fiction as, a junkyard operator who knows the wolf? And it's like, well, because she and her husband were friends with Quentin Tarantino, and she didn't have to put on a leather costume to be the first idea mainstream America thinks of when they think of BDSM people.
Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure, like, did Quentin Tarantino do an uncredited rewrite on the It's Pat movie due to his friendship with Julia Sweeney or something like that?
I think so. I think he was lightly involved. I mean, it was funny. These guys who were would-be filmmakers, like, were usually on the outside of the LA improv scene. I think they liked hanging out with him. And I mean, reading from the obituary you linked to in our notes, Bob, like, to learn how the late Steve Hibbert played the Gimp was because originally it was supposed to be the co-writer of Pulp Fiction, Roger Avery, but then Roger Avery learned that, like, Tarantino was going to, like, try to prank him and leave him locked in the box all day, and so he asked Steve Hibbert to take the role over so he wouldn't get bullied by Tarantino.
And going back to Julia Sweeney, she married Steve Hibbert in 89. They divorced in 94. So right when she was cast on SNL, she was still Julia Sweeney. I assume she just carried that professional name throughout her career. But for a time, she was Julia Hibbert, and that's where Julius Hibbert comes from. And based on Steve Hibbert's history and his age, he likely could have been a Simpsons writer if he wanted to be, because he came from Letterman. He's like the same age as Al Jean and Mike Reese. He traveled in the same circles. So I'm sure he was a friend of the show in a loose capacity.
Yeah, I would guess it's possible he was a coworker with, Jeff Martin and Gamble and Pross, and which, naming Dr. Hibbert after Steve and Julia Hibbert was similar to, like, the Gambles were a slightly recurring family in the first season of The Simpsons, named after Tom Gamble and, of course, Professor Frink. We all know Professor Frink.
Yeah, I don't know if Steve ever commented on the Dr. Hibbert connection, but I'm just curious to know, like, what did he feel about this? Because it is, like, a very prominent B-level character in The Simpsons that just happens to have his name.
And seeing Avery posted about it and the passing and said the last time he saw Steve Hibbert was at some event in Atlanta, it sounded like Hibbert no longer lived in Los Angeles and had moved somewhere else to retire. Yeah.
So R.I.P. to Steve Hibbert. And our final news item, not related to The Simpsons either, but Smiling Friends is coming to a surprising end. There are only 2 episodes left of season 3, and then it is out in like 30-ish episodes. And people are wondering, is this a bit? Because as we record this, April 1st is around the corner. So we're not sure what's going on, but I don't think it's a bit at all. I think they are deciding to end the series. And this news comes right after some quotes from the creator saying, we don't want to go on forever. We think 5 seasons could be enough for us. And then they decided to, announce that it's not going to be 5, it's going to be 3. And we've already produced the rest of what you're going to see.
I take it to be real. And hey, if it's by April 1st, it's revealed that actually they were just goofing on us. They've been renewed for like 5 more seasons on Adult Swim for 100 episodes. Then you got me, guys. You got me. But yes, they certainly... Well, they mocked The Simpsons in the most recent season, but I also saw after this got announced and people were kind of like, no, it must be a joke. Like Zach, the not Australian guy, people pulled up like clips of him when he did like the Game Grumps, I think, and was doing a quick play and was just talking about how he's like, man, these shitty new episodes of Family Guy used to be good. Like it was being used as an example of like, he doesn't want to become like season 7 Family Guy or whatever, I think they legitimately learned from those shows they grew up and turned down money. It doesn't sound like Zach and Mike, the guys, aren't retiring. I think they're just going to have new projects is what they'd like to do, either with together or with other people.
Yeah, and Michael Cusack, the Australian member of the group, of the partnership, he has other shows. He has YOLO Crystal Fantasy and Koala Man. So if you like his voice and his style of animation, you can watch his other things. And I'm sure these guys are like barely out of their 30s or like in their mid 30s. So there's going to be a lot more of them to come. It's just going to be like the first phase of their career, I guess.
Based on Instagram ads, I do wonder if a little of it is that they see the merchandising machine for Adult Swim has begun. Like I am getting multiple different like toy ads for like buy characters from the show, not just the main guys, but I can't remember his name, but the Crash Bandicoot guy from the season 2 premiere.
Oh yes, that guy.
They're getting all this merch and maybe they're just seeing like, we're becoming the machine now. Is this what we want? Do we want to be that rich? But also like they could easily just hand over season 4 to somebody else and they'd be voice actors on it. I think they could get away with that and still cash really big checks, but they don't want to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It could have something to do with the Skydance deal where they don't want to work for the Ellisons, perhaps. I'm not sure about their politics. They seem to be on the up and up, but maybe they're like, we don't want anything to do with this. We're going to do our own thing somewhere else and have fun. Have fun with this buyout, everybody.
Yes, it's been a fun month here where the second worst thing that could have happened to Warner, which is getting bought by Netflix, now isn't going to happen because the worst thing that could happen is, and it's getting bought by Paramount. So a smaller company that has more debt is going to somehow be allowed to buy Warner Brothers, and then they become a giant company full of debt that will lay off everybody they possibly can.
Yes. You see, this is how you become a billionaire. You don't make a little Peter Griffin dance around on the screen. You acquire things.
Yes.
And then sell them.
And
After, lay everyone off and then sell them, by the way.
Also offload all the debt onto one of those things you bought and have it stop making the thing it makes because it has too much debt on it. It makes sure a lot of people are unemployed. Yes.
It's a great system we've got here.
Wonderful plan.
Unfortunately, we cannot change it. And yes, that's our final news item. Let's move on to news about us. So let's talk about our schedule for the month of April. As you know, I guess for the past 7 years, probably, we've been doing this live action month for What a Cartoon, which means our TV subject is live action and our movie subject is live action. And for the month of April, our What a Cartoon episode will be about Married with Children, the classic Fox sitcom, Fox's biggest hit right before The Simpsons. The episode will be the season 5 episode, Married with Aliens. Yes, by the time they got to season 5, aliens were involved and they're real and they freak Al out.
It's such an important part. It is a huge part of Simpsons history in that it lots of times air alongside The Simpsons or at least on the same night. Simpsons episodes are referencing Married with Children history and the style of Married with Children as a sitcom that is attacking the format of family sitcoms, created an environment where The Simpsons could exist and get a show made.
Yeah, nothing was like it before. Nothing has been like it since. It's so uniquely mean and funny. And I've been watching a bunch of these to decide on an episode to choose. And no other live action show has the father figure threatening to kill his children, his wife, and himself for most of the jokes. That is the kind of dark humor we're going for in Married with Children. But there's some inventive stuff going on. There's some crazy stuff going on. And it is, I guess, Fox's longest running live action sitcom at 11 seasons. Wow. So Married with Children, a lot of episodes, a lot of history. I'm looking forward to digging into it. I was a big fan as a kid. And every time I dip back in as an adult, I'm like, man, this show is funny. Very, very funny. And everybody gets it.
Yeah, I look forward to giving it another watch. I remember seeing this one as a kid. I haven't watched it in a while, but I enjoy Mary. I'm looking forward to finally covering this one.
And for our miniseries episodes, we have Talking Futurama, the episode All the President's Heads. From what I remember, this is a time travel adventure that involves a lot of U.S. history. I have not watched this yet because we have not recorded the episode yet, but I'm sure it's very good. We are heading towards the end of production season 6. There's some big ones coming before we move on to the next order of Comedy Central episodes.
Yeah, it's a Josh Weinstein written one that is in his specialty of presidential history. It runs into fun colonial presidential history and yes, time travel, and brings up real. I just did a commentary watch of it yesterday with some notes, and yeah, there's some interesting history I had not heard before, and my mind kept thinking like, oh, this is like about the Hamilton musical. It's like, wait, no, this is like 5 years before the Hamilton musical. Why am I thinking this is related to Hamilton?
Was Hamilton referencing this episode? We're going to find out. And then for Talking of the Hill, we have the episode Moving On Up, which is a sort of farewell to Luann, or at least getting Luann outside of the house for news stories and giving Brittany Murphy a chance to shine in Hollywood when she had her little brief period when she was a big movie star. So Luann won't disappear from the show, but she'll be used in a limited capacity at this point. So this episode says, let's get Luann out of the house. Let's move her in with a bunch of news radio character actors and see what happens.
It almost feels like a parody or perhaps an actual version of those, like Married with Children had episodes of this that are like, this is a fake episode of the sitcom that is actually a pilot for a spinoff as an episode of the sitcom that could star all the people in it. All of these people could have been regulars on this show, of course.
It is true. This is a good episode, though. And like I mentioned before, it is live action month on the network, so we are covering a live action movie in April. And for What a Cartoon Movie, we are covering Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. We had such a great time covering the first live action movie. I think at this point it was like a couple of years ago. And we're returning for the sequel, which is, I guess, slightly more fun, but a lot more stupid. And it's not a good movie, but it's a movie that'll be fun to talk about.
I think we'll have a lot of fun talking about it, too. It's its 35th anniversary. It actually just was. Fathom Events in the U.S. played it in theaters this last weekend, and I went and saw it partially to, it's like, oh, I know this is coming. Let's see this again. I can replay The Secret of the Ooze in my mind without ever watching it again. I watched it that much as a kid, but it's interesting to be in a theater full of, I'd say, about a dozen other mostly childless men in their 40s. So a couple of guys brought their kids to it.
They force their kids to see it.
One kid there was talking during it and seemed to enjoy it. I want to say that. I'm not complaining. I'm glad a kid enjoyed a Turtles movie.
This isn't Minecraft. You lied to me. Yeah, so that's going to be our live action movie for that month. Remember, if you want to get access to these exclusives, you got to go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Sign for $5 a month. You get the TV episodes like Talking Futurama and Talking the Hill. $10 a month gets you the movie episode about TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze, and of course, access to the entire back catalog. And as a reminder, in the month of February, we put together a charity episode about the Family Guy episode, The Simpsons Guy. That is the Family Guy Simpsons crossover episode, with all of the proceeds going towards the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. So that is still available on our shop. When you pay for it, that money will still go towards the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. And at the beginning of March, we donated a little bit of $3,300 USD, and soon we'll be donating an additional $1,500. We have to wait for Patreon to release those funds first. And yes, please listen to it. We're proud of the episode. We're proud of where the money is going to. But if you do buy it, do not buy it with the iOS app because they will charge you extra money. That money does not go to us. It goes to make the Apple executives even richer. Yes. So don't give it to them. If you want to use your iPhone, just use Safari, the browser, and buy it that way. But just don't use the iOS Patreon app. The Android Patreon app, I'm sure it's fine. Any kind of web interface, I'm sure it's fine. But iOS, they want to charge you extra money. Those bastards.
Yeah, I mean, the Apple iOS app, it works fine for listening to things or voting in polls or all that stuff, but you never conduct any business in it. Sign up for things on a browser or the Android or other apps. Just don't bother to give money through it because Apple just it's always about those extra fees from Apple.
It's why you can't buy Kindle books with your iPhone using official apps because they're like, we're not going to sell these to you because Apple wants to charge us extra money to charge you. So go online, use a browser instead.
And in everything, it has a browser now. So, but yes, I mean, 1,000 of the money that is currently locked up is Apple funds that also Patreon, I think, because of Apple, has to sit on for longer. But regardless, every time you buy an episode of our Simpsons Guy, if you haven't gotten it yet, that goes to another donation we'll make in the future. It will keep doing that as it keeps going. So yes, please keep checking that out. Me and Bob worked very hard on that one. It is a mega episode with tons of history and chat about Family Guy and Simpsons on it.
It's over 3 hours long, so if you enjoy hearing us talk about cartoons, I assume you do, then you can hear us talk about Family Guy for a very long time and The Simpsons. So yes, check that out at our Patreon shop, very easy to find. And now let's talk about our own stuff, what we've been playing and watching that's not related to our podcast. I've got a few games. One big game I was playing throughout the last month is called The Seance of Blake Manor. It's a very, very cool mystery game. It took me about 20 hours to finish. It's unlike any other mystery game I've ever seen before. I won't go into the details because it's very complex, but if you go to my backlogged account, I'm Bob Servo on there, you can read my review of that and many other games. So I will limit my time talking about The Seance of Blake Manor, but it was robbed at the Keeleys.
Oh.
Totally robbed. It's an amazing game. It's one of the best mystery games I've played in my entire life. So that is my heartily recommended game of this month. And then I'm also going to talk again about Monster Hunter Stories 3. I like the demo. I think I talked about that last month, and now I'm playing the full version of the game. It's really got its claws into me, no pun intended. And this is like Pokemon for adults. And by that I mean Pokemon for 14-year-olds and older. Everything I dislike about Pokemon is fixed in this game, and I think the monsters are better. That's just my own personal opinion. But I'm really, really enjoying this turn-based take on Monster Hunter. Check out the demo if you haven't, if you're into this sort of idea, because the demo will let you play for a very long time. You could probably sink 10+ hours into the demo alone. That will let you know, am I ready for this very complicated battle system? Do I want to interface with the world of Monster Hunter like this? And I think I'm enjoying it more than last year's Monster Hunter Wilds, which is a slight disappointment for me as a big Monster Hunter fan. So please check it out, Monster Hunter Stories 3.
Yeah, I see it when I open up Discord in the evening sometimes for work communications. I'm like, wow, Bob's playing Monster Hunter 3 again. Yeah, I think I've spotted you playing that a lot of nights this week. You've been playing it a good deal.
Every time I've tried to play a Pokemon game, the turn-based ones, I realize I had my Pokemon experience, and they're not changing the things about the game that I personally want to see change. That doesn't stop them from selling a billion copies, of course. It's just my own personal taste. But this does suit my personal taste and the way they make things a lot easier or a lot more user-friendly for me. And as someone who likes Monster Hunter more than Pokemon, it's exactly where I want to be. So please check that out. Also, I'll limit my time talking about movies. I watched Hoppers, the new Pixar movie. We rolled into it, my wife and I, thinking, well, there's nothing else playing. And I was thinking, this looks kind of cute. And I wasn't expecting it to be that great. I gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd. I might bump it up to a 4 because as I think about it more, I'm liking it more and more. And it is one of those movies where when they show you the concept art, you're like, man, this could have been an even better 2D movie. It looks pretty good as a Pixar CGI movie, but what they start with is much better than what they ended up with the CGI characters. But I do like it. It's a nice little environmentalist fable with really cute beavers. And it really, if anything, it's a tribute to the beaver, an animal we take for granted. So after this viewing, my wife had me watch this documentary about beavers that's like 15 minutes long. And I was like, man, the beaver is really God's chosen mammal. We need to bow to the beaver and its amazing construction skills. But Hoppers, I will give it a recommend, especially because Pixar is like, we make movies for shareholders. Screw you, audience. You're going to be seeing Buzz and Woody until we recast them 30 times.
Yeah, after the last few, well, I guess actually the Pixar movie before this was also original, Elio. It was nominated for animated feature. But yeah, Hoppers, I have been happy to see it has, I think, been doing good in theaters as an original one. It's not making the like $8 billion that Inside Out 2 or whatever somehow makes. But it's nice to see an original one and directed by, not just somebody who's been at Pixar for a million years, but the We Bare Bears creator, like getting to make a film outside of the Cartoon Network system.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Elio, whatever it's called, it did get an Oscar nom. It didn't win, but Pete Docter essentially was saying, well, that was a mistake.
Yes.
Enough of these personal stories.
That quote, I mean, I'll just say what I said again on Blue Sky, but it really did bug me because like Pixar, he said like, we're here to entertain, paraphrasing, we're here to entertain people, not be your therapist. You're not spending hundreds of millions of dollars on being your therapist. And I was just like, well, okay, it's fine to take that, or it's not fine to take that stance as a dodge of like not doing queer stories. But especially for Pete Docter included, who like directed Up, that movie is full of like therapy speak. It's meant to make you, they're all about like, let's move on from grief. It's all therapy bullshit. But when it's queer stuff, we're like, hey, I'm not your fucking therapist. Get out of here, fag. Like that bugs me.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of Pixar movies that I got into, but they kind of annoyed me where everyone felt specifically engineered to make you cry. Like, we launched the make you cry missile in this scene, and like we spent years building that missile, and this is going to be the moment that just fires into your heart. I feel like they've kind of backed off from that a little bit as their mission statement, but yeah, for like the longest time, these movies were meant to make you like think about loss and grief. So, yeah, it does feel a little hypocritical to me. And I think he's really, put his foot in his mouth with those statements. Maybe he'll walk a few back in the future, but I didn't like the recent Pete Docter dissertation.
I mean, the best defense I've seen from it is people mainly just saying like, well, what do you expect him to do? He's a major executive at Disney, and the guys above him are saying him like, hey, no more of this gay stuff right now. It gets us in trouble, or people don't. There's a section of America that doesn't like it, or also like literally they might be punished by the FCC as political punishment these days if they do it. So they're cowards is what I'm saying, like, obviously.
I mean, like, I liked Hoppers, and it is a kid's movie, and this does sound crazy, but I feel like I wish this movie met the moment in a way that things like One Battle After Another did. And yes, I know I sound crazy, but like part of the message, not to give anything away, is like, oh, you have to like work with billionaires to change things. The people who are like occupying and destroying your life. Well, we need to work with them, unfortunately, and here's how we do it. And I'm like, I kind of like the other plan in the movie that I won't talk about here because it is a spoiler. I'm like, it's weird to come down against that plan when it's what we all want.
I will give this a weekday watch. I'm going to give this a watch this week.
Hey, give it a weekend watch.
Okay, maybe this weekend. Maybe I'll give it a
Bring
week.
the hubby.
We'll go to the dine-in theater and make a night of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you like, hey, there's nice chubby animals. I know one of you is a borderline furry. I can't tell which one yet.
Maybe that's in my secret Ted enjoyment has been. That,
yes. Just come out of the closet, Henry. You've already come out of one of them.
It was entered into another closet of furriness, yes.
And anyhow, and recently out of the library, I rented, or borrowed rather, the classic Bill Plimpton movie, The Tune. And I had seen this on VHS when it was new as just a mystified child who kind of like Bill Plimpton, but only had seen his shorts on MTV. And they recently put this out on Blu-ray, I think just a few years ago. And you've never seen Bill Plimpton shorts look this good. And what the tune is, it essentially collects all of the classic Bill Plimpton shorts from the first, basically, decade of his career and stitches them together with a framing device. And the framing device is kind of weak, but he found a way to make all of these shorts work together as a whole story. But essentially, it is a very fun and hypnotizing way to take in some of the best Bill Plimpton animation from up to 1992. And then on the disc that I rented, he is talking about his new movie, which came out in 2023. I think it's called Sliders or something like that, or Slide. And I thought, like, oh, he made another movie. It turns out Bill Plimpton made 6 movies before that, and they're just kind of unavailable. So there's a lot of Bill Plimpton features out there if you're willing to look them up. And I'm like, I should see another one of these because he's the only one who's kind of doing that style. He kind of trademarked it in a way. So I do want to see, like, what does a real Plimpton feature look like that's not just, here are all my shorts that I put together in one whole.
I should give this a watch too someday. I barely seen much of his work. Usually it just comes into my life as like a Simpsons couch gag or a commercial or a short that gets played on like an animation special or something. Like, I should know more about Plimpton's work because he is like such a unique one-of-one type independent artist who's been independently animating for decades and decades now, doing, something that is still very hard to do for many people who would love to make independent animation projects, but the money is really difficult to make it work, and he should be viewed as like an inspiration to so many.
Yes, there are 8 Bill Plimpton features, by the way.
Wow.
I don't know where you watch them. I'm sure they're available in physical media in some way, I mean, maybe digitally, but yeah, if you want to find these, they're all out there. So yeah. And in terms of TV, this is related to something that Henry is watching, actually. I have been watching a lot of One Piece at the gym. I am nearly up to episode 500 as an on and off watcher of One Piece, which means I'm at the pivotal Marineford arc, which means we're about to do the time jump, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens after that, because that's all everybody talks about when you're watching the first half of One Piece. Like, wait till you get to the second half. So that's exactly where I am right now, and hopefully I'll have the stamina to keep going because I really am enjoying it. This lead up to a big moment in the series that kind of changes everything and gives everyone new outfits.
Oh man, Marineford is so big. Like, watching live action this week, like, that was one of the thoughts I was talking about with my husband too. Like, I know this looks like a big budget show, but to make Marineford, to do it the way it looks in the animated series, would take like an Avengers level budget for the number of special effects characters that would all be running around. I mean, like, they're struggling on a TV budget to make it work sometimes in the Marineford episodes.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by what I'm watching. I watch the anime and then I read the manga to see, like, okay, what's the original version? But yeah, really enjoying it, and only 600 more to go. So I'll keep checking back in with everybody if I don't get worn out, and I probably will, and like stop watching for a year and then jump back in. But that's it. Like, not a lot of other things to talk about. Just enjoying working on a lot of podcasts and working on taxes, which is also great.
Yeah, it's nice that we finished. I need to get moving on to my personal taxes. Our other taxes dealt with for business wise, so everything went pretty good this year. It's
you won't need to pay our bail, everybody. Don't worry.
Yes, yeah, that'll be a GoFundMe later someday, but not now. Well, as far as video game playing, I jumped hard on the zeitgeist, as it was compared to, remember in 2020 when everybody was either playing, it felt like everybody was either playing a Doom game or an Animal Crossing game. Well, for a couple weeks in March this year, it felt like everybody was either playing a Resident Evil game or a Pokemon game. And I did both. I did both.
Now, Henry, I got to say, playing RE9 feels out of character for you as someone who doesn't like horror movies. In fact, I've heard you call them scary movies before. And I didn't hear you talk a lot about 7 and 8. So I was like, wow, Henry's playing this. And I'm saying this because this is a game that I want to play, but I am psyching myself up to play it because 7 and 8, folks, way too spooky for me. I really can't do first-person horror. I don't like horror games. I love horror movies, but maybe it's because I have too much anxiety in my brain. I cannot handle horror games. I love RE4. I like the more action-focused ones. This one seems like just as terrifying, at least with the half of the story that you're playing in first person as a different character than Leon in his 50s hunk with all the firepower.
Yes, so I am with you there, Bob. First on, I will say in horror movies, I love a prestige horror movie or a major one. Like, I love Evil Dead 2. I love The Thing. I am a huge Scream fanatic. Like, I've seen, though listeners, I did not see Scream 7. Don't worry. Nobody needs to see Scream 7. But my point is just that I do like horror, but yes, if it gets too scary, it can be too much for me, and I skip it.
Everybody, I've heard Henry scream on the Jaws ride at Universal.
And also with 7 and 8, yes, because I had beaten every numbered Resident Evil up to 7 and 8. I played 7, and yes, it got to be just too, like 3-4 hours into 7, it was just too intense for me. And I did the same with 8. I got up to the giantess that everybody loves. And then also my friends were telling me like, that's just one section of it. So if you like her, even it's not going to, it loses steam after that. So I was like, all right, maybe I don't want to keep being that scared. But Resident Evil Requiem, it really is the best of both worlds. Like the Grace sections of it are very scary, but they are paced in a way that makes me able to, like, basically it is like Krusty is coming. Like, okay, the Leon section's coming. Coming.
Question for you, and then I'll reveal something about myself. Were you playing them in first person, and were you listening to a podcast?
No and no. I played Grace and Leon in the camera angle that was decided by the company. You can play Grace in third person. It probably does make it less scary, but I was like, no, I'm doing this. I'm doing this first person Grace. And I also like, you need to hear sounds so well with it. I was like, I'm not doing podcasts with it either. So yes.
Because like, I've been thinking about playing this game, and I told my wife, like, you have to be next to me on the couch. Let's have a fun time playing this together because I don't want to be alone. And I'll reveal something about myself. During my final months in the games press before we left for this job, they were previewing Resident Evil 7. And it's a VR game, too. It was actually made to work with the PSVR. And I went to an appointment, and they're like, okay, now it's time to put the VR helmet on. And I lied. I said, actually, I have a bad sinus headache right now, so it's probably a bad idea. Because I was scared. And I'm revealing this here for the first time. Wow. I lied to Stephanie Palermo of Capcom. A very nice lady.
Yeah, she is nice. Now I think she's at Nintendo.
I think she's at Sony now, so I'm sorry, Stephanie.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Perhaps. I don't follow her career or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I had to lie instead of saying I'm a chicken shit coward and I will cry like a baby probably in front of you if you put this VR helmet on me and I get scared.
I took that VR demo, probably the same one or one similar to it for 7, and yes, it was one of the most like stressful things I've had playing. Where I don't play games to like scream. You know, when you say that, Bob, I should also say I was playing it with the lights on and my husband sitting next to me the whole time too. I also was playing that way.
You need to be like holding hands with somebody while you're piloting Grace around. But yeah, I just want to know, how scary is the Grace stuff in terms of like how do you handle it? Heard some of it, not to spoil anything. I was just trying to like learn more about it to sort of psych myself up. I heard there's a lot of like comedy with the zombies in it too. There's
some nice comedy. I also, I don't want to spoil too much, but also in the Grace sections, they pace it well that like you do check in with Leon from time to time, almost as like your dessert at the end of like a 2-hour stretch of being scared as Grace. And also I think too, like Grace is kind of a fun character to be scared with. I like her. She has so much more going for her than the like faceless guy, Ethan from 7 and 8. She's much more interesting to be around. And
Ethan's mostly like a floating arm.
Yes. Yeah. Grace has a real story to her, and she's connected to, an obscure Resident Evil game, but a Resident Evil game all the same. And yeah, the Leon sections are like, oh, these feel like Resident Evil 4, and I miss playing as Leon. I didn't like the Leon stuff in 6 as all that much compared to Leon stuff in Requiem.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm going to try to give it an honest chance and overcome my fear.
It will start you with the biggest scares at first. So that's when you got to steel yourself the most in the opening hours. Yes.
Well, I also think it's funny that you stopped playing RE8 when the giant woman disappeared, which tells me something about you.
I saw that the giant woman's motion capture was done by a man. And that also, I was like, oh, that's kind of, is this awakening something in me? I saw.
Well, I know when they revealed that woman, nobody could type on their keyboards for like at least 3 days. They had to get them cleaned off.
Yes.
To catch my drift.
I forget which came first, that or Bowsetta, that people were the most.
It might have been Bowsetta. Okay. I'm just thinking of like the things that everyone got too horny about all at the same time. It was like a shared horniness.
So the game's about 12 hours long. It was a great 12 hours. I had a really good time with it. People who want Resident Evil to be scarier might not like it as much, perhaps, because it's not as scary as 7 and 8, but it felt like a really nice celebration of 30 friggin' years of Biohazard Resident Evil. I like that too. But and then the other game I played was Pacopia. the best reviewed Pokemon game ever on like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it's and I got it because as soon as I learned, when I saw the reviews coming out that said this is Dragon Quest Builders 3, I said I am there. I am there for this.
That's cool. Yeah, I still have to play Dragon Quest Builders 2, so this is not on my radar. It will never go down in value and price because it's a Nintendo game. So if I play it 9 years from now, it's going to be $70. But it does look interesting. I first assumed it was like a Stardew Valley or a Minecraft kind of game, but it is sort of like building within the prescribed rules of a Dragon Quest Builders game.
Yes, it's all voxely, just like Dragon Quest Builders. It also, the story kind of is like Dragon Quest Builders as well, where in Builders 1 and 2, I'm not going to spoil those, but they exist within the context of the first Dragon Quest game is then like reflected in Dragon Quest Builders, the first game. Like it sort of remakes or redoes the story. And this is kind of like that too, of like, oh, you have to rebuild a world that kind of reminds you of the first Pokemon games. And there's a weird mystery to it. What's going on? That kind of their thing. Plus, I love the design of a mime trying to look like a human. Like it is a cute, weird, derpy looking character. That's a Ditto, not a Mr. Mime, sorry. A Ditto trying to look like
I was going to say, like from context, it seems like, oh, everyone is playing as a Ditto, but you get to choose what it looks like.
Yes, yeah, you pick the gender and all that for your Ditto and make your specific looking human character. And it has like the tragedy of the Ditto is imitating the human that used to, boy, saying own and master sounds weird, but you get what I mean. His old friend, his human friend that kept him in a Pokeball.
Yeah, I guess we weren't thinking too much when we called them Pokemon Masters.
Not if you play as a Pokemon, but it is, yes, it's fun of like, just like in...
I think we stopped saying HM Slave, though, right?
Oh, God,
in Pokemon
right.
lingo.
I hope they have, actually. Yes, I think. Well, actually, like Ditto is also like famous for you get a lot of eggs with Dittos back in Pokemon. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You send Ditto to the farm with another Pokemon, and you're going to end up with an egg somehow. Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah, sorry. HM Slave is now HM Mule.
Oh, okay.
So we've updated the terminology.
That's just cruel to animals there. That's fine.
Yes. Screw them.
If you enjoy the Dragon Quest Builders games, then it's totally there. Dragon Quest Builders 3 will apparently never happen because the director who worked at Square Enix on it quit the company. It seemed like he worked very hard on those Builders games. And so it seems like Game Freak or the Pokemon Company or somebody saw the availability of the developers for Dragon Quest Builders who weren't working on a third one. They're like, can you just do that for Pokemon for us? And they did. And it's like, the game that's been like selling Switch 2s. It's a Switch 2 exclusive. The first one I've played in months. So it's been nice to be playing a Switch 2 game again too. So,
do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Maybe you're even barely getting by making minimum payments. With credit card debt hitting record highs, National Debt Relief offers real debt relief solutions for people struggling to keep up. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy, and you may be able to pay back less than you owe, regardless of your credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe 10, 20, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living increases. To find out how much you could save, visit nationaldebtrelief.com. That's nationaldebtrelief.com.
Cool.
as far as movies, other ones we mentioned, I did go to theaters and I saw old movies in theaters this month. Other than TMNT, I also watched A Better Tomorrow. This is the second John Woo in 4K re-release that's been doing in Fathom events. It's been really great. Those have been very crowded at my local theaters. Lots of either movie bros or Chinese Americans watching these classic films.
Hey, there could be Chinese American movie bros too.
That's true, yes. Yeah. I say this just because I was sitting next to a man and his wife in their 60s who were Asian American, but they were really enjoying it. I had not seen the first A Better Tomorrow in a million years. That's the one that made John Woo huge in Hong Kong, and same for Chow Yun-fat, the star of the film. Well, actually, he's not the star of the film. He's the breakout supporting character in the film.
Yeah, these are playing around me too, and I wanted to see Hard Boiled, and I figure it'll probably be out again at some point, but I'm glad these are being reissued.
Yeah, A Better Tomorrow I think it's a really good one to watch first, maybe, though also it's fun to watch back because I saw Hard Boiled in theaters a month earlier. And that's like him at his biggest budget and most powerful in Hong Kong, John Woo. And then A Better Tomorrow is like him with like a fraction of the budget of Hard Boiled. So he's forced to make the action like matter more with less money. And basically Chow Yun-fat's character, it's adapting a movie story about like one brother is a gangster, one brother's a cop. How will they work together? And then Chow Yun-fat is like the friend of a gangster. And then he just takes over the movie. And by the end of the movie, he's like standing between the brothers and saying like, hey, here's what you guys should be doing. Like he just takes over the film.
Well, this is going to break your heart, Henry, but I'm looking at John Woo's filmography. I've only seen his American stuff. So Hard Target, incredible. Face Off, incredible. Mission Impossible 2, not that great. But do like his 90s American stuff for the most part. So I really need to dip back into like where he came from because he went back there.
Yes, his Broken Arrow film also is a great one. That was, I think, actually the first John Woo movie I rented Hard Target in my Jean-Claude Van Damme childhood phase after seeing Street Fighter. I want to say I then saw Broken Arrow in theaters. Like I definitely saw that in theaters and then saw Face Off next. And that's when I saw Face Off in 97. My friends told me, this is like the guy who directed all the best action films from Hong Kong ever. And then I started like 97 watching all of his classics. I would say then, Bob, maybe Hard Boiled is great. Really, really great. And so is The Killer. I would suggest maybe starting with A Better Tomorrow just to have like a grounding in his first big work, I'd say.
Okay.
But yeah, fucking Hard Target, I watched for the first time in forever, the 4K version. It is so funny to see the Jean-Claude Van Damme school of action meet the John Woo school of action. Like he double guns somebody and then does a spin kick needlessly to a guy he's already shot dead.
Yes. Yes, he should stop kicking people when he has guns, but he's JCVD.
And on the other side of foreign films, I watched Fellini, the first Fellini big hit, I think, or at least internationally, La Strada, which means the road. And I was like, I have several of his films I've not seen before. I've only really seen 8.5 before, which is like starting with somebody's like last movie. I watched La Strada. I now see all of the references to it in many other things. Anthony Quinn is the star, and Richard Basehart, Gypsy's favorite character actor for Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, I guess he is in there.
Yeah, it really is great. It's about life. It's about being in an abusive relationship and what the world wants out of that, and about being a clown or an entertainer. And also it's a nice, like, just 90 minutes. Like, it's a really good little film. Yeah.
After watching a lot of Oscar movies, I respect the 90-minute film more than ever. I'm looking at you, the secret agent.
Oh man, that did look very long. Well, I guess
240.
Wow, that's as long as like Once Upon a Time in America, which is like I feel like he earned the right to make a film that long, Sergio Leone.
Well, wasn't a fan, and I was kind of glad it got shut out. But anyways, we can talk more about Oscars later. All my Oscar commentary is like vengeful, like, good, I'm glad you lost.
Well, I did watch the One Piece live action season 2. It was good. I wanted a little more, but it was fun to watch. The first 2 episodes were like, we saw it in theaters with some friends, coworkers of my husband, who are also One Piece fans. And we were in the theater. I just wore like, a One Piece hoodie that I bought in New York. My husband wore one he wore in Japan, but we were surrounded by cosplayers. Like and I got to say, especially compliments to, like, if you're a young lady who wants to cosplay as a One Piece character, you have to have a lot of confidence. Thumbs up to you ladies who cosplay as, say, Nico Robin or Nami.
Oh. Now, what does this adapt? Because it seems like it's adapting the Baroque Works arc, and weirdly enough, that is my favorite arc so far. I just like the idea of, like, suddenly here are a dozen villains, and they all have crazy, unique powers. I just love, like, the maximalism of that arc.
Yeah, no, it's a ton of the Baroque work stuff, yes. It starts with, and they add some extra flavor in there, but it starts with the Laboon story as they enter the Grand Line. And then it ends at the end of Drum Island when Chopper has joined them. And just, yeah.
Now, here's the thing. This series, I have been watching and reading One Piece on and off for, I think, now 24 years. Like 2002 is when I first got like bootleg DVDs of the series and started getting into it. And when I see the actors and footage, I just think, well, this is not what I think of One Piece. So there's a big disconnect for me in that, like, Luffy is not like a regular human being. There, like, no human being could be Luffy. And when he talks, he has to sound like a scratchy voiced old grandma. So there is like a huge mental block for me getting into this series. But I honestly think like it's not for everybody. I don't think it's for people who have watched the anime or the manga. I think it's for people who want the story told to them as efficiently as possible via like the Netflix model, and I think that's fine. But I personally like have a real problem whenever I see a picture or a video. I'm like, oh, okay. I just don't imagine these people as being made out of meat who exist in space.
I've come to accept them as their own universe, and the cast has grown on me a lot. I really love the main cast, like especially Usopp's actor is really fun. Meanwhile, I do feel for like the guy playing Sanji, like he does have to be very good at kicking, but it's actually really hard to like, no, seriously, your choreography can only be kicks. You cannot use your hands. But occasionally there's MCU style quippage, or also everybody says the word shit so much in it.
That's that hard TV 14.
And they say one F word in it. Also, Katie Sagal, she since we mentioned her before, like, yes, I like her in it. She's very good this season, I'd say.
Yes, playing Dr. Kureha, who everybody wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to be in that role, but I guess she had to be in Borderlands instead. But so Katie Sagal, she's good in that role then.
I think she is maybe the best of the actors in the season, I think, actually. Yeah. I'd say, actually, that since you mentioned the Jamie Lee Curtis thing, I saw Jamie Lee Curtis in an interview. They were asked, like, oh, why aren't you playing that character? You'd said you wanted to play her forever. And she joked, like, yeah, and then Katie stole it from me. But then she just says, no, she's apparently Jamie Lee Curtis and Katie Sagal. She says they've been friends for decades and that she's happy for her. And she also joked that, like, it's better that Katie Sagal is playing this role because she can actually just show her stomach as in the role. And that Jamie Lee says she doesn't have as taut a stomach as Katie Sagal does. So.
They really should have found a role for Ed O'Neill to play very briefly.
He could have been Dr. Hurley-Hook. I always read these names. I don't say them out loud. Like,
the like Chopper's initial like mentor, right? Yeah.
He'd have been good.
Where was he? Being 80 years old and relaxing? Get him on a soundstage.
I liked it. I didn't love it, but it is now I'm up to date with the comic, and so. But they drop in Marvel-style teases of, ooh, that character wasn't there in the comic, but now look who's in the background of this shot. Somebody in a black overcoat and a top hat. Who could this be? Stuff like that.
Yeah, the anime does that sometimes too, when it's made with some hindsight, so they can just say, okay, what if Ace hung out with them at this section when he wasn't there before? Because we want to make him a bigger character, knowing where the story is leading, things like that.
And I did watch the On Cinema Oscar special this year. It was a lot of fun. The introduction of the Doodle Dots and the Michael phenomenon. These are all silly things and I also did it because, like, well, on April 11th, they're in Seattle doing an On Cinema Live here, so I'm going to be checking it out. They're doing a tour.
Now, I watched the real Oscars with my wife for the first time, probably since the mid to late 90s, that I sit down and watch the entire ceremony, all 4 hours of it. And it's because we were genuinely interested this year. We have watched a ton of Oscar movies, 8 out of the 10 Best Picture noms. And Henry, what were your thoughts on some of the wins?
Oh, yeah. I also did watch the regular Oscars very closely, too. And I thought it was an overall very good show. And basically, of the ones I cared about to see who won, I think pretty much everybody won that I wanted to win other than Delroy Lindo. I haven't wanted Delroy Lindo to win since I was a kid and watched Malcolm X. And he got he lost again to a 3-time win of a guy who doesn't need it and is kind of a jerk.
I recognize the fact that he doesn't need another Oscar, but that Lockjaw performance was insane.
I know.
And I kind of got to give it to him, Sean Penn, for One Battle After Another. But in terms of like animation, Little Amelie or The Character of Rain, whatever it was called, that was my pick. But still really glad K-Pop Demon Hunters won. That and Best Song. And it seemed like people in the audience didn't know how to deal with it, that win.
Right.
Because they don't care about Best Animated Picture to begin with, a lot of the people there. Let's say most of them in attendance. So they're expecting, the Disney thing's going to win, the Pixar thing's going to win. But when the words K-Pop Demon show up, they're just like, what does this mean?
Yes.
Should I ask my kids?
Yeah, they need to ask their children who they like. The animated section is often overlooked a lot. I actually appreciated this year for once. The presenters of the animated award didn't go like, yeah, this is what our kids make us watch, isn't it, guys? Right? Will Arnett and other guy.
Channing Tatum, I believe, right?
Channing Tatum, yeah. They actually had like the joke was really about pandering for applause, but they actually had a good line about like, this is made by people, not AI. I prefer that to jokes about nobody watches cartoons, right?
I like the win because, Studio Ghibli has won before for Spirited Away and The Boy and the Heron. I like one of those movies. The other one has a lot of craft behind it. Don't love it that much. But at the same time, it was sort of like the snobbish view of anime. Like, well, we like Ghibli and that's it. it. So I like that an Asian animated movie that's not trying to be like, oh, the art, the craft, the storytelling, a 90-year-old man brought this to you. It's all about Asian pop culture, and that's really cool that won.
Yeah. Also that it was such a big hit that it got to like get the recognition it deserved when it was treated so poorly by Sony to just be like tossed off to Netflix. Like, yeah, you can have it. We're not putting this in theaters, when it probably would have made $1 billion in theaters.
Yeah. I was really happy with a lot of the wins, and like a lot of my picks won. We weren't like gambling, but we had our like little list down and we were marking off who we thought would win. Very happy. Amy Madigan won for Weapons.
Yes.
The first thing announced, and I was like, yes. And it was funny because it went from the Conan sketch where they're basically doing the end of Weapons, and Conan is playing the same character in a way, to her winning the award. And I also love how the Oscars just spoiled everything. Like, the beginning is the end of Weapons. The end is the end of One Battle After Another. Like, you have to have kind of seen the movies, because if not, you probably just got massively spoiled.
I also wonder, I would think they would just air it all the same. But if Sinners had won Best Picture, would they have still just played a Conan sketch about the ending of One Battle After Another, right?
Well, we should ask friend of the show, Scott Gardner, who was a director on the Oscar segments. There,
yes.
We said it. We dropped the name.
Our friend,
don't trip over it.
He has 2 things he can brag about now, being on Talking Simpsons and directing things seen by billions of people on the Oscars. Yeah,
He'll only mention one of those, but he's thinking about the second one.
Bob, if you were rooting for Sean Penn, that means you approve of all the things his character did in that movie. You shouldn't.
I did.
That.
He was right to do it, and I'm sad that he lost his racist WeWork office.
No, look, I have to admit too, he is perfect in that role. Though also Benicio del Toro, I kind of was rooting for. He was my second place in that group of movies I'd seen. I can't speak for movies I didn't see, but I wanted. Delroy Lindo was so sad he didn't win it. You could tell that made me sad for him as well. Even.
Well, he's only 70. Yeah. There's still a chance.
And I'll admit, in Sinners, I also felt like he's doing great, but in a way that's just like, well, yeah, he's awesome. It felt like Michael B. Jordan was asking him to play the hits. Like Michael B. Jordan says, I think one of the very first movies he saw in a movie theater was Malcolm X. And Delroy Lindo is playing a character similar to West Indian Archie, who he plays Malcolm X, which was very affecting to me as a kid too. So which is why I remember that Michael B. Jordan mentioned the same, which he should have fucking won an Oscar for that one, but obviously that wasn't going to happen back then. But
yeah, I think the issue is that like probably the role was a bit understated in Sinners, and it wasn't a big memorable character like in One Battle After Another that you are thinking about when you leave. Like I kind of forgot Delroy Lindo was in Sinners because you're basically thinking about 2 Michael B. Jordans. I'm seeing double here.
Yes, yeah, and he's not as impactful in the second half of the movie either, comparatively, I'd say. But yeah. And lastly, hey, I wanted to brag, but if you went to everybody in Seattle who went to the Doughboys show at the Neptune, I was a surprise guest in the last third of it. Got to come out and share my thoughts on Taco Time as well.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I haven't heard that one yet. Can you spoil what your meal was at Taco Time?
Yeah, so, if you weren't there, you haven't heard it yet, I think it's coming out in like April on their Patreon feed, so look forward to it there. But yes, I had never even eaten at Taco Time before, which is a chain in the Pacific Northwest that is like Taco Bell, and honestly, it was delicious. I gave it 4.5 forks on their out of 5.
What was your Taco Time? Like, what time was it at Taco Time? Was it chicken time?
Let's see. It was a mix.
Carnitas time?
Well, when I say the proper names of food at Taco Time, I'm going to have to clarify what they are, because what they call a taco, a soft taco, is what you would call a burrito. But then they also have a burrito that's not the same. But so I had basically what everybody else ordered at it. We each tried the crispy burrito, which is a taquito basically, and the chicken and bean ones of those were so good. Man, they were so good. And same with, I had a chicken and bean soft taco, which really just means a burrito with sour cream in it too. And also their version of tater tots, I forget what the name for that is, but they had very tasty tater tots. So yeah. And the thing putting them over the edge on the 4 stars for me is that they had the good pellet ice from their machines, which that's the right type of ice you get at a fast food place.
Well, we do have a Taco Time up here, so maybe I'll give it a chance. Although not a lot of vegetarian-friendly stuff from what the menu is telling me.
You're pretty much just stuck with beans, I feel like. I think it's just
beans are a good friend of mine.
Though I guess I learned this from the podcast appearance. if it's the green logo type, there's 2 Taco Time franchises. Orange one is apparently less liked than the green one that it was used to be known as Taco Time Northwest. So I don't know if you've got a green or an orange logo up there.
Well, I'll have to investigate that logo before I sit down to eat.
And you know what? I also read, I want to just say I read Hamish Steele's Go Man, Champion of Earth, his recent comic, because I read his previous series, Dead India, but now after guesting on a Retronauts with Hamish, I wanted to give Go Man a read, and I give it a big thumbs up. I hope it someday could be an animated series. It's a really good, it's autistic child Ultraman, and it's really fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, Hamish and Henry and Drew Mackey were on an episode of Retronauts I put together about the original Super Mario anime movie from 1986. So that's on the Patreon if you want to listen to that at Retronauts. Patreon.com/Retronauts. Another Patreon. What am I, made of $5?
But geez, sorry, I feel like I went on so long there, but that's everything I did this month.
And now it's time for questions and comments from the last round of episodes. We're going to start with Talking Simpsons, the episode Midnight RX, and Graham Reed says, the line about having enough drugs to make Regina look like Saskatoon was a big hit for 12-year-old me and my brothers growing up in Regina. For the unaware, Regina is the capital city of Saskatchewan and is a very boring mid-sized by Canadian standard city. Saskatoon is the cooler, bigger brother that is nicer, but still just a prairie city at the end of the day. I've since moved to Saskatoon, and the people that live here love to put down Regina. Meanwhile, Regina people acknowledge that Saskatoon is a superior city, if only just slightly. It's a very one-sided rivalry. Anyway, it was always fun to see little old Saskatchewan referenced in The Simpsons. Well, thank you, Graham Reed. When I go to Saskatoon, I will slander Regina.
I was glad to see somebody could speak on Regina versus Saskatoon and their particular rivalry. It sounds a little like how San Francisco people thought that they were in a rivalry with Los Angeles, and Los Angeles never really thought much about San Francisco, it seems. Yeah.
That sounds likely. Hey, you know what? I want to go to Toronto. Haven't made it there yet, but Bruce McCullough is coming to Vancouver, so in a way, a little piece of Toronto is coming to me.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Bruce McCullough. It'll be, I think we're getting close to 10 years since we saw the Brain Candy thing at Sketchfest.
I had to tell you, it was 10 years ago in January.
Okay, I must have been thinking of it because we both probably got the same Facebook 10 years ago thing, right?
Yeah, because what marks that day in history is we went to New York City for a Switch event.
That's right.
I think.
That's right. Yeah, we saw the Switch and then flew back that day and went straight to the theater and left our luggage someplace precarious. Everything was fine, but so we had travel stress, but trying to calm down because we could not miss Brain Candy.
No. But yeah, great night, and hopefully Bruce will put on a show for me.
Dan Vincent also said on that episode, since Gimli was mentioned in an episode full of aviation scenes, it seems appropriate to mention a Gimli claim to fame. The Gimli glider. On July 22nd, 1983, a new Air Canada Boeing 767 registered C. Guan departed Montreal to fly to Edmonton. Unfortunately, it didn't make it to Edmonton because it ran out of fuel. One of the fuel quantity indicator sensors was defective, and Captain Robert Pearson used a formula based on imperial units to calculate how much fuel they needed to fly to Edmonton. That's a problem because the 767 uses metric units for everything. Captain Pearson accidentally underfueled the plane, and it ran out of fuel mid-flight. Since they wouldn't have enough altitude to glide to Winnipeg, the crew began to make an emergency landing at a decommissioned Royal Canadian Air Force base, Gimli, instead. Unbeknownst to them, the runway had been converted into an active racetrack. The landing was difficult but successful, with the pilots avoiding the crowd and race cars. Nobody on the ground or on the aircraft died, and only a few passengers suffered minor injuries. Wow.
Back to Winnipeg and back to land on a racetrack? Okay.
That sounds like the end of a movie or a Simpsons episode of running out of it and having to land in Gimli, the Gimli glider gliding onto a converted racetrack and barely missing the crowd or the other drivers.
Where's our Gimli glider film?
Yeah, you would think that at the very least the Canadian Film Board would want to have that to brag about something so culturally Canadian. And also, I got several comments from this month correcting me on things that I felt I was like, you know what, I need to share this so I'm staying honest, but I wanted to let somebody try to correct me, saying oh, the spruce moose wasn't in Burns's thing in Springfield. That's from Tailspin. Wrong, buddy. It's spruce moose in both of them, so better luck next time on that correction.
They both landed on the same joke, I guess.
So I guess Tailspin must have done it first on.
Oh, yeah.
But they're both the Spruce Moose as a parody of the Spruce Goose. So I just wanted to, since I'm going to talk about a few things I got wrong, I wanted to at least say, like, you know what, I actually got this right. You couldn't correct me.
No one ever talks about the things we got right.
Yeah.
It's a real shame.
Where's those compliments?
They just silently appreciate them. Moving on to Treehouse of Horror 5, Garrett K. Larson says, my son is almost 10, and he's gotten way into The Simpsons, which is a real joy. I'm very grateful I get to enjoy it with him and see his own little sense of humor forming. And of course, I get to regale him with fun facts I learned on this podcast. And all that to say, should he ever get married, I will 100% be incorporating Grandpa's wedding advice during the toast. Thank you, Garrett. Although I have to imagine that probably 10,000 Simpsons fans beat you to that with that toast.
But it'll be extra special for Garrett and his son then. That's so touching. Man, will I ever be at another wedding where I'll be able to give that toast? I just was at a wedding in November, but I didn't really know it was my husband's childhood friend that was getting married, so I don't think I was close enough to even give him the speech had I thought of it.
This could be revealing too much. Is your brother married?
Oh, sorry. I meant my husband. I said husband when I meant brother. Whoops. Okay, wait. Let me.
Uh-oh. Don't investigate that.
No, it's not Freudian in any way. Forget it.
Sorry. Your brother, though, who you're not married to,
no.
is he married?
My brother is not married, no. So maybe.
Okay. Ladies.
Okay, yeah. We'll see.
If you're looking for another Gilbert, there's one on the market. As far as I know, he could have a girlfriend or boyfriend.
He never talks to me about any of these things, so I'll know. Honestly, I feel like I'll learn that he has a wedding after it happens. I feel like.
Oh, jeez. Well, we're getting him on the show at some point. We got to learn more about.
He has a lot of Simpsons watching with me stories to tell. I'm sure he does.
More importantly, we need his side of the story.
So this will not be a live podcast. But okay.
No, we're not putting this on Twitch.
So Jonathan says on Treehouse 5, I have seen A Sound of Thunder, the adaptation of the Ray Bradbury short story we mentioned in the episode. I recently saw it while visiting my parents and knew nothing about it. It's very cheap looking and filmed primarily on green screen. Even simple outdoor shots of walking on the street are CG, which is really weird. It's almost like they wanted to do a Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow thing, but couldn't pull it off. I have not read the story, so I can't comment on how effective Bradbury's writing is, but the film is somewhat enjoyable as a bad movie.
I see. I have not seen this. I've seen like trailers for Sky Captain, and I think Sky Captain was ahead of its time by saying, what if just everything was a green screen and nothing was real?
I remember liking Sky Captain all right back in the day, though I also knew it was like, I just liked the Fleischer cartoons it was inspired by. Though this description of everything being CG, it sounds like the stuff that's on Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst. The what they call those like black tank top movies, I think they call them, right?
Oh, perhaps, yeah.
Where every element is CG and it's just like a rich guy on a green screen just making his own insane passion projects.
Like Neil Breen or something,
basically,
right?
Neil Breen is the king of the black tank top movies, I think. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's really filling out that tank top. What are we on now? Are we on Mommy Beerist?
Yes.
Okay, so Mommy Beerist. Mike Mariano says, on the commentary while discussing the card segment, someone asked if the previous Gravy and Jobriath segment was also CGI, but Gene confirms it was stop motion, so that means there are Gravy and Jobriath figures out there. If the prices for original cells are getting out of hand, I think Henry should try to acquire the original Jobriath instead. And this is Bob speaking in case our listeners don't remember. Gravy and Jobriath was a parody of Davy and Goliath, the Christian stop-motion thing made by Art Clokey. And in the parody, they're about to blow up an abortion clinic.
They build a pipe bomb in it. I feel like they made that joke right before Columbine, I think.
Although it was obviously stop motion, so I forget who was asking if it was CGI, but it definitely wasn't CGI.
I don't want to put it on our great guest that episode, Stuart, but we knew it was.
No, it was somebody on the commentary, not on our show, who said it was CGI.
Yeah, no, that's right. Gravy and Jobriath, I mean, you and I both know it was by the Kyoto brothers, the killer clowns from outer space guys who, before Shadow Machine came around, I think Kyoto brothers were the guys in the late 90s, early aughts that you go to of like, can you imitate stop motions, Rankin Bass specials for us, please? Like they did it for Elf not too long after they did Gravy and Jobriath.
And they also did the parodies, 'Tis the 15th Season, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and the California Raisins.
Yes, right, yeah. They use the Kyoto brothers a lot. I think the Kyoto brothers are still at it. Also, Steve R. says about that episode, glad Henry noted what I also took to be a Liar Liar reference. It was my most frequently watched Jim Carrey movie as a family house had the VHS. At some point in my life, I grew cold and stopped enjoying any film's blooper reel, but I have great memories of my sister and I as kids rewinding the credits to watch Liar Liar bloopers.
I never got as far as the VHS with Liar Liar. I saw it in the theater, but I think it was too old. I think kids of that era have a lot more fondness for that movie than we do. Do you like that movie, Henry?
I remember liking it all right. I liked him it felt like, oh, Jim Carrey's back kind of thing, because he's given like basically a magical problem to solve because his kid wishes that he can't lie anymore.
I think I was like 15 when this movie came out, though, so I thought like, maybe this is over for me. I'm an adult man now.
If I remember the ending, the blooper reel, the one I remember from it is that during the court case, he's yelling at his opponent, legal counsel, and she then riffs in his face, "Overactor!" They laugh hard at it, but it felt like the only blooper that was a person makes fun of Jim Carrey, not the other way around.
Those might have been part of the original movie theatrical release. I don't remember. That sounds vaguely familiar, and I've only seen it once.
I think then, the bloopers must have just been on the end credits, both for theatrical and the VHS release then. Yeah.
What was the Liar Liar reference in Mommy Dearest? Do we remember?
Oh, it was that Homer was riding the stair car to try to catch up with the plane, which is the end of Liar Liar. Yeah.
I was only thinking of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
During that scene.
Which was airing right after that episode of Simpsons.
Moving on, we have our What a Cartoon for the month of March. Haha, you clowns, the episode Bomber Jacket. And Silky PJ says, Joe Kappa, the creator of Haha, You Clowns, was recently on an episode of Jesse Thorne's Bullseye, where he talked about a split in the audience between those who really liked the wholesomeness and others who were on your side, more of seeing the dark underbelly of America and the facile nature of sitcoms. Kappa has said that it's both things. He does enjoy wholesome medium like sitcom and movies like The Buttercream Gang, but also intentionally made the family careless and awkward like they were exposed to too much TV. The dad is based on Joe's real dad, who he and his brother get along with. I think it helps Joe started making this series in his 40s with a more worldly experience outlook that gives it this particular tone, especially on Adult Swim. It's a very fitting show for right now because people crave sincerity and authenticity. I'm hoping Adult Swim can follow through with this show and more shows in the vein of Joe Para Talks with You's mix of off-kilter yet uplifting. And yes, thank you very much, Silky PJ. I didn't know if our audience would be into this, but it seems like most people were, and most people had already seen it and were fans, and the people who were just tuned in really got into it after they watched the episode we covered for this podcast.
Yeah, I think it was really energizing to talk about a current show. Also, another reason I put the Smiling Friends bit in there was that it just felt like, oh, well, if you're sad that Smiling Friends is going away, there is a brand new, even newer Adult Swim show that I think would appeal to the similar audience, even though it is tonally it feels very different from Smiling Friends in a way.
Yeah. I mean, this could be like a sea change at Adult Swim, whatever Adult Swim is going to be in the future. Who knows?
Yeah. Ian Jones Cordy, our guest on Treehouse of Horror 5, he just posted about how the special for Adult Swim that he animated or directed a third of, The Elephant, just got taken off of HBO Max, but it is still on the adultswim.com. So if you still haven't seen it, give The Elephant a watch, folks. Norman Benford also says about Haha, You Clowns, I can't be the only one who can see Jesse Plemons playing the brothers in a live-action adaptation.
I could see that if he does a Sinners
yes,
and splits himself into 3.
And then he's definitely going to get an Oscar. If you get an Oscar for playing 2 guys, if you play 3 at once, come on.
After Begonia, I'm really appreciating the work of Jesse Plemons. In fact, you could say I'm having a real Plemons party over here. That's a reference to Lemon Party. Yes. We're old.
I learned about those on Oprah. Yeah, no.
What? Oprah?
She had a special about these are the sex parties your teenagers are having type deals. I remember seeing
I'm talking about the famous old picture of old men having sex.
Oh,
Lemon Party?
Okay, sure, yes. I was thinking of the lipstick party one. Yes, I know Lemon Party now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Just want to make sure my joke got through.
No, it did. I got viral sex things of the 90s mixed up. Sorry. But Plemons, it was cool seeing him at the Oscars when Michael B. Jordan won. The camera caught them locking eyes and looking at each other because they were both on Friday Night Lights when they were young actors. And now they're both top actors in the field these days.
I mostly like Begonia. I don't think it should have gotten a Best Picture nom, but whenever I think of Begonia, I also think, A Land I Didn't Make Up.
It's that unfortunately I've had it spoiled for me, what can be spoiled about it. So
Who spoiled it? Name them.
well, I mean, it's a person we've had on our podcast before on Chapo Trap House.
Okay.
I mean, it's, I still would like to see it, but I love Plemons and Kirsten Dunst basically being like acting power couple. They're really great together.
Well, now Kirsten Dunst just signed up for the next Minecraft movie, so I think Plemons' worth has risen.
Look, I understand Dunst wants to make some money for she was in a lot of like small budget things for years now.
Yeah.
I think she wants to cash in, I think.
Dunstan wants to check in, if you catch my drift.
Well, they have...
I don't think there was a Dunstan's checks in reference. All my references are just sliding off the screen here.
Will she also cash in on like having, all the Mary Janes meet each other in the next Spider-Man movie or something? Who knows, right?
Oh, let's see. Let's find out about that. Up next, we have Shrek 2. Now, I want to say a few things. Let's get serious about Shrek 2. This is a controversial podcast for a lot of people, and I don't understand why, but I feel like I'm now noticing the elder millennial versus younger millennial split in our audience. And it's okay to disagree with us. I wish it wasn't, because it upsets me, but it's okay to disagree with us. I just would like people to be diplomatic. For the most part, they were. But what I noticed about this is that, in my estimation, the people who were upset about our treatment of Shrek 2, it was a very emotional response, and that's a valid response. But I was combing over so many comments and so many Discord messages, I did not ever see anyone call out something that we said specifically. It was more like they were too mean, they were too nitpicky. But I'm honestly curious, like, what do you think we were wrong about compared to our coverage of other movies that we view as lesser? Because I didn't see anything pulled out, like any examples pulled out. And I'm really curious about that, because all I'm seeing is that the reaction was emotional. And if you're attached to something, I understand. But I just want to see, like, what did you disagree with? That's really what I'm curious about. And we probably won't cover any more Shreks. I'm guessing.
It might be a while till our next Shrek, though. Maybe for the people who hate Shrek 4, maybe we can all be in agreement of hating Shrek 4.
And I want to cover something else, because a lot of people on the podcast, I said, people told me Shrek 2 is the worst one. And then I saw people on Discord and comments saying, well, who told Bob this? This is crazy. No one thinks this. People think Shrek 2 is the best one. I don't know who told me this. I don't know where I got this information. It just was in my head. I just have heard this over time. I cannot actually give you a citation, but it is something that I've heard. So that's all I can say. Like, I'm just a guy telling you things I've heard sometimes, and that could not be fulfilling for you, but I just had to communicate that to the audience. But Shrek 2, at the end of the day, it is the highest grossing movie of 2004. We cannot take that away from it.
When I shared that, and it was in the podcast too, but I used it for the Blue Sky post promoting the episode. That commercial of like Shrek and Donkey selling the Walmart exclusive version of the Shrek 2 DVD, and they're singing Disco Inferno together with a Walmart character. I was just like, doesn't this, to me, it just spoke to like, this is how empty reality and life was in 2004.
Yes. And hey, like Shrek 5 coming out this summer in 2004, War with Iraq. Biggest movie of the year, 2026, War with Iran. This could be the biggest movie of the year. We need something to get us over pain at the pump.
Yes. Shrek can get us through this one more time. He can get us through it.
Anyhow, Alex Irish says on Shrek 2, maybe I'm amazed at the way you weren't fans of the sequel when the popular Contrexus is that 2 is the peak and best of the series, though I can see why it wouldn't be someone's favorite through your justified criticisms. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is indeed the actual best Shrek-adjacent movie, in part because it solves one of the critiques I have of Shrek in general. It fixed the character designs by making them visually appealing and by caring about the stakes of the story and the characters. And yes, thank you, Alex. I don't know if I'll see Shrek 5. The answer is probably no, but I do appreciate their efforts to make the characters look more appealing. They're kind of stuck in some ways with some assets or some aspects of the characters I don't like physically and visually, but I like that there is an effort to make them more appealing now that they have technology in hindsight and everything working for them.
After I watched The Last Wish, which I did enjoy, to go back to the first Puss appearance where I feel like he is written with so much more shallow. They don't even know if he's a good fighter or not. And I also feel like a lot of the jokes that they have about him are just about what if he said something in Spanish. Like, it really turned me off after seeing such a great Puss in Boots movie that I think took all of those ideas and concepts much more seriously. Also, Joshua Marchant says on that Shrek 2, as a 10-year-old boy in 2004, I immediately recognized the Shrek, Harold, Fiona, Donkey bit from a season 2 SpongeBob cartoon, Imitation Crabs, where Plankton and Krabs shout each other's names back and forth until SpongeBob cheerfully adds his own. And one of the writers of that SpongeBob episode, Shrek 2 story artist Walt Dorn. So maybe we could generously assume this was him reworking a joke he used before. Also, speaking as a Kiwi, I never tire of people trying to approximate our subtly bland accent and ending up in an Australian South African hybrid. Thanks again.
There's like a Venn diagram between Australian accents, South African accent, and New Zealand, and they're all kind of the same to me. I kind of got to do like Crocodile Dundee to lapse into Australian.
I'm going to try to read it as Joshua typed it in the accent, like, thanks again for the podcast fellas. There.
That's good. I like it. And yeah, this Walter Dorn guy, I'm looking at his credits. What's he doing these days? Oh, he's director of Shrek 5.
There you go. Well, there you go.
That just shows you got to steal to get ahead in this world.
At least it sounds like he stole from himself, but I appreciate that. I got that one, Joshua, because that one, when I saw it in the movie, I was like, I know I saw this in a cartoon before this was in Shrek 2, but where was it? And to pull up that SpongeBob one with staff overlap, I do think is kind of telling. It doesn't definitely mean that's where they got it from, but I saw a couple people mentioned, oh, Henry is going overboard here with the Mission, saying that they ripped off Mission Hill with one of the opening jokes of them of the people with pitchforks chasing them during the love montage at the opening. And I was like, I stand by. One of the main screenwriters of the movie was a writer on the only season of Mission Hill. I feel like that matters when I'm trying to say that this is very similar to a Mission Hill joke.
I also don't think they're saying like, I'm gonna steal this joke and nobody's gonna find out. They're just their brains function in certain ways, and when they have to think of jokes about certain scenarios, they might fall back in the same territory without checking their old work. It can happen.
Yeah. I don't see something malevolent there. It's more just like, if you've heard a podcast where, not ours of course, but where somebody tells a story again that they've told before, like they forgot they've told before, that's like probably being in a writer's room. They've coming up with a similar joke again that you think you've come up with for the first time.
So that is the final statement on Shrek 2 for now. Look forward to us torturing you more about Shrek in the future, potentially. We don't know. Up next, we have our Talking Futurama episode about Fry and the Eggman. And Maverick says, my Temple of Doom gripe. The airplane they escape in is a Ford Tri-Motor, which has a fuel range of roughly 550 miles. They take off from Shanghai, and their first stop, according to the map, is Chongqing. Chongqing? I don't know how to say this when it's spelled out in front of me. This is Bob Mackey speaking. That is 1,000 miles away. Are you telling me they managed to fly twice the distance it was able to? I surely hope someone got fired for that blunder. Yes, thank you, Maverick. That just proves, like I said, once they get in the plane, you turn that movie off, you pop in Last Crusade, you're fine. For where the story is going in for the plane inaccuracies.
Just so you're not bothered anymore. Once you hear Dan Aykroyd speak, you know it's time to turn off the movie in his unnamed cameo. And then meanwhile, Seth says on Fry and the Eggman, it's fun hearing John DiMaggio doing his Scotsman voice. I cannot help but think of him in Samurai Jack. It's even more fun hearing his Samurai Jack co-star, Phil Lamar, doing a Scottish accent as well. And I appreciate that, Seth. Despite being a regular viewer of Samurai Jack back in the day, I did not make the connection of like, oh yeah, John DiMaggio's big a character on Samurai Jack was a huge Scotsman with a sword. Yeah.
I forgot about that. By the way, it's Chongqing. I don't like how Chinese is transliterated. Same thing with Korean. I apologize.
No, I appreciate that you looked that up. I was not going to give it a shot. But now also here, I'll say another thing that's hard to say. I was successfully corrected by several that there's a joke where the Scottish guy is just exclaiming things and they're all similar stuff. And on one of them, he says, Yojimbo Rashomon, but he says something before it that I'm like, man, that doesn't even sound like a Kurosawa film. I don't know what that is. The words he says are Dersu Uzala, which is a Kurosawa film. It's the only Russian language film he made and co-produced with the Soviets. And I was unaware of this film.
Well, a fine Dersu Uzala to you, sir.
So thank you, listeners, for pointing that out. And I haven't seen every Kurosawa film. I've been working on through. I just watched Ron last year for the first time. Dersu Uzala is on my list now to be a Kurosawa completionist.
Now, he has directed a lot of movies, I guess 30, so you've got quite a road ahead of you.
It's true. There's everything from 1955 onward completionist of Kurosawa. That's probably a little easier, I think.
Sure. Yeah, you're going to cut out like 10 movies, I guess, so you're good.
I've watched, I think, at least half of his post-55 stuff. From Rashomon onwards, I've watched about half of that at least.
So moving on, final comments about Talking of the Hill, Naked Ambition. And Graham Reed says, regarding the Yardverse films, Bob, you're thinking of The Longest Yard. There's a Burt Reynolds 70s version and a 2000 Adam Sandler remake where a football player goes to prison and joins the prisoners' football team in a game against the guards. Not worth watching. Thank you, Graham. It's my rule new rule, if you have a movie with the word yard in it, then it has to be about football. I'm sorry.
Yes, apparently somebody else, I pointed out that like the whole 9 yards, I didn't know the idiom this person said referred to was a wartime term because like a magazine of bullets from, a machine gun was 9 yards long. So if you fired all of it, you did the whole 9 yards of shooting. I think that's where it comes from, which would fit more with the whole 9 yards film being about like people shooting guns as part of it, for instance.
10 yards, we don't know what that means. That's a sequel, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's now The Longest Yard. I haven't seen either of those. I have seen clips from the Adam Sandler one because several pro wrestlers are in that movie, and so I've seen clips of pro wrestlers in movie things. So, and then our final comment the month on Naked Ambition is from Dan Vincent, who says, please forgive my computer pedantry, Henry. Windows 2000 had anything but a lackluster reception. It's one of the most beloved releases of Windows, but you probably don't remember it because Windows 2K was the latest release of Windows NT, which was Microsoft's OS designed for servers and high-end workstations. Unless someone worked in the software development or business IT at the time, they probably missed out on Windows 2K. Henry is probably thinking of the later and confusingly named Windows Millennium Edition, ME, the last gasp of the Windows 95-based operating systems. ME was a short-lived turkey that nobody liked. Both Windows 2000 and Windows ME were replaced by Windows XP, the first release of a Windows NT-based OS designed to serve both the consumer and professional markets. And also, the Bill Gates blue screen of death was related to Windows 98, which came up in the South Park movie What a Cartoon podcast.
So I assume Henry got his computer information from a Mac source.
Yes, I was doing my research on the Mac, so it must have been lying to me. Yes.
It lied to you. Or was the evil AI overview?
Oh, God. Did you see that new thing recently, Bob, where like, obviously I've learned to scroll past AI overview in search results and not even look at it, but I saw a thing today about how like Google results are now AI rewriting headlines to like SEOify the headlines for you.
Oh. Yes, I did see that. As somebody who has written for the internet for a very long time and kind of still does, I demand a check for some of this stuff. All this training I've done.
Yeah, like we both had to be severely trained in SEO to like, no, you have to put the name of the game. Now, what's this clever title all about? You need to put the name of the game as the first 3 words in it so people find it.
Well, in terms of training, I mean, like all of the training my work has been used to train the AI. Like, here's a bunch of scrape all this, learn how the words work.
You've probably been scraped more than I, though we both have work out there that can be scraped from. But like you are often on a lot of video games, like one of the cited sources in them. And so on Wikipedia. So yes, the AI is stealing from us and now renaming the headlines on whatever articles of ours still happen to exist that have survived this long to be a search result still.
Those bastards better not have scraped my book.
Oh, God. It's bad out there, guys. I'd rather remember Windows 2000 stuff as from Dan Vincent, who was another correcting of Henry person. So there, I kept it honest. Several corrections of me, not just people who say, Henry, you're always right. You never get things wrong.
A simpler time when Windows was good and Bill Gates was having fun on islands. He was on island time.
Yeah, he's on island time. Man, the other guy, the wrong billionaire died. The other guy, as far as I know, he never went to any islands, and he built a cool museum in Seattle. The other creator.
Which guy is this?
The other creator
Microsoft
of Windows who's passed away from like cancer a few years back. Yeah. I believe he was a confirmed bachelor, in quotes, according to his Wikipedia page.
Well, on that note, we're going to end this podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody, to Talk to the Audience. And as a reminder, next month, April, is Live Action Month. We will be covering Married with Children for our TV episode and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze for our movie. And of course, we have normal episodes of Talking Futurama and Talking the Hill for everyone that is a member of patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Anything else, Henry?
Oh, well, and then always remember that you get the early and ad-free podcasts there of our regular ones, too. So if you want to hear this without ads a week early, or all the cool stuff we got coming in April without ads for Talking Simpsons 2, sign up for the $5 level of Patreon just for that. And also, Talking Simpsons, another great month. We just had a great month of great guests, and we got a lot of great guests coming up now. We've been planning, we have several great guests planned, some new and old coming back for the upcoming episodes too. So really excited.
So thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you again next week for a new episode of Talking Simpsons and next month for another episode of Talk to the Audience. Take care.